Good evening, I'm Amanda Post.
And I'm Kevin McDowell. The Pope is resting tonight on Strawberry Island in Canada after yesterday's appearance at World Youth Day in Toronto. So today some of the youth came to him. He had lunch with 14 kids this afternoon. Meanwhile, in Toronto, crowds are getting ready for the Way of the Cross tonight. Tomorrow night there's going to be a prayer vigil with the Pope, and then they're going to have Mass on Sunday. So far, there have been no major problems at this week's World Youth Day. Now, one reason may be all the security. 12 News senior reporter Paul Wagner is traveling with a group of 500 from Erie, and he has the latest.
Police are everywhere at World Youth Day, talking to the pilgrims and patrolling the grounds, on horseback and on motorcycles. The exact number of officers is secret, but police admit it's a huge contingent.
We have literally hundreds of police officers from the OPP, the RCMP, Toronto Police, and many of the other regional police services.
And private security guards man every entrance. All bags are searched, and metal detectors are used to screen for weapons.
Yesterday they confiscated my comb because that could be used as a weapon. I've yet to get that back. But yeah, they're very, very tight on security here, especially with the Holy Father.
There's more than 200,000 people here at World Youth Day in Toronto, so getting through the backpack searches and the metal detectors takes a while. But the Erie group here in Toronto say they don't mind a bit.
I think just in the wake of what happened on the September 11th, I think it's very important to do that.
Well, I don't think you can be too tight, but it's nothing that's been a nuisance to us, but I don't think that anybody has had a problem stopping and having their bags checked. We know that it's a fact of life. We know that it's essential.
Also essential, keeping an eye on all the major events. Surveillance cameras and undercover officers are used to scan the crowds.
So our Joint Operations Command have eyes and ears monitoring all the activities of all the events at all times.
Of course, the most critical time for security is when the Pope appears in public. Although he's loved by the faithful, he's already survived an assassination attempt. And terrorism is always a concern after September 11th.
We've been planning in excess of a year and a half for this, and officers have been dedicated full-time for the past year.
All that planning has paid off, at least so far. The Pope and the pilgrims have been kept safe.
I feel perfectly safe, yeah. I'm not worried at all.
Police say they will continue to worry until the event ends on Sunday. In Toronto, Paul Wagner, 12 News, with coverage you can count on.
And coming up tonight at 11, Paul's going to look at how the worldwide media is covering the event.
500 local young people joined hundreds of thousands of people on the streets of Toronto tonight. The Way of the Cross was one of the major events of the World Youth Day. The drama included actors portraying Jesus and many other characters of the Bible. Tonight's spectacle is one reason why World Youth Day has drawn reporters from around the world. 12 News senior reporter Paul Wagner has tonight's story.
World Youth Day is an international event. The sounds tell the story. Religious music from a French youth group. Drums beaten by native peoples of Western Canada. And the percussion beat from Mexico. The different sounds of more than 200,000 religious pilgrims now in Toronto.
With so many countries represented here in Toronto, 170 in all, that means there is media here from around the globe covering this event 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. More than 3,000 journalists are covering World Youth Day. Many travel thousands of miles to Toronto.
We're trying to document the experience of young people here, not only from the Philippines, but also from other countries.
Mexican TV crews are giving World Youth Day major coverage, with the Pope due in Mexico next week.
Yeah, it's very important now, the opinion about the priest, the Pope, the message.
Following the Pope's message is what Sean Lovett does for a living. He's one of 11 journalists in Toronto, reporting for Vatican Radio in 40 different languages.
And so our perspective is to set in context what the Pope is saying, to try and help people understand why the Pope is here, why he has chosen to be here, and to say what he's saying at this place at this time.
The media hears the Church's message in many different languages. Providing translation is just one job the media office handles for foreign journalists.
It's a long day of a lot of questions and a lot of requirements, and just do what we can.
It means setting up interviews for an Asian crew and providing information to this Italian reporter eager for a story. So while North American television crews may have the prime slots on the scaffolding, foreign reporters are on the street, telling their countries the stories of World Youth Day. Clearly an event with worldwide impact. In Toronto, Paul Wagner, 12 News, with coverage you can count on.
And Paul will continue his coverage of World Youth Day by joining Erie Catholics on the pilgrimage to the site of Sunday's Papal Mass. You can catch his report tomorrow night on 12 News at 6. A long walk today for the 500 Erie Catholics in Toronto for World Youth Day. They joined more than 200,000 people from around the world in a pilgrimage to see the Pope at an all-night vigil, followed by a Sunday Mass. 12 News senior reporter Paul Wagner was with them and has this report.
Yes, Lord, yes,
They
yes,
sang
Lord.
as they walked.
Yes, Lord, yes, Lord, yes, yes.
Walking to Toronto's
yes,
Downsview
Lord,
lands,
yes,
the site of the vigil and Mass with the Pope.
It's very important, I think, so that we are focused on our Christ, and it makes us prepare, helps us to prepare for what's going to happen tomorrow, getting ready for the Holy Mass with our Father.
Jesus walked his, way to where he was crucified, and the amount of suffering that he did for us, this is nothing compared to that.
But still, it was a long walk, and the pilgrims had a lot to carry: backpacks, sleeping bags, and bedrolls. Bob Uzelac carried more than most.
I'm leading the group, and I've got a few things, but I do some drumming for the group, so I'm bringing along one of my drums, and it's going to be a long haul, but I'm pumped up for it.
But Peg Nearing decided pulling was easier than carrying.
Well, we thought of this because we thought, how are we going to carry all this stuff?
Along the way, the Erie group met people from all over the world, some entertaining, others just smiling and waving. Even a Toronto musician set up shop along the route.
Well, this is where the spirits are all here, so I wanted to be here.
And entertain them.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun.
Fun for pilgrims with proper footwear, but even walkers without sneakers didn't seem to mind.
My sneakers gave me really bad blisters and they really hurt, so I wore flip-flops. Plus, I figured Jesus do it, so I can do it too.
The walk to Downsview from central Toronto, about 8 kilometers, that's about 4 miles. And it's a pretty tough walk as it is very hot, about 85 degrees today.
It's hot, but it's worth what we're doing. It's just the experience of meeting so many people, and I'm just having a great time here.
It's hot, but I think we're prepared. We gave everybody a lot of water and told them to make sure if they're feeling lightheaded or anything to stop and take a rest.
But the overheated pilgrims got some help along the way. A mist of water was much needed relief.
I'm doing pretty good for now.
Pretty hot.
Yeah, it's getting pretty hot.
And you got a big load to carry.
Yeah, I do. My book bag's pretty heavy. Got lots of water.
Clearly the pilgrimage wasn't easy, but none of the Erie group even considered taking a bus, a streetcar, or a subway. They say this walk to meet the Pope is necessary to help them strengthen their faith. In Toronto, Paul Wagner, 12 News, with coverage you can count on.
And tomorrow we'll wrap up our week-long coverage of World Youth Day with highlights of the Papal Mass, and Paul will tell us how the Erie pilgrims coped during their all-night vigil. Pope John Paul says Roman Catholics should respond to the scandalous behavior of abusive priests by rededicating themselves to the pursuit of holiness. In an outdoor mass at Toronto's World Youth Day celebration, the Pope said the harm done by some priests and religious to the young and vulnerable fills us all with a deep sense of sadness and shame. But John Paul urged Catholics not to be discouraged, but think of the vast majority of dedicated and generous priests. He says the Church isn't the sum of its failures, but rather of God's love. His Mass today ended a week of festivities for young Catholics. A delegation of 500 from the Erie Catholic Diocese were among them. And the 500 local Catholics who attended today's Papal Mass arrived at the site after yesterday's pilgrimage through the streets of Toronto. They spent the night outdoors in the massive crowd attending an evening vigil with the Pope, wrapping up their week at World Youth Day. 12 News senior reporter Paul Wagner was with them.
The vigil was a time for the faithful to come together, and they did, in a sea of humanity. A crowd estimated at 650,000 filling Toronto's Downsview Lands Park. On the stage, the Pope, the magnet attracting these pilgrims from all over the world, his presence a cause for celebration. Seeing the Pope is why these members of the Erie Diocese attended the vigil. They were far from the stage, but nobody complained.
I think we have people from Poland beside us and people from Paraguay up here. It's amazing. It's just overwhelming.
You have to be open to new experiences.
And what's a new experience without having fun?
But fun meant camping out with all the other pilgrims, packed together in the July heat, tired and sunburned.
Very sweaty and very hungry, very thirsty, but it's worth it because the Pope went by and we got lots of pictures and it was amazing, so I'm very glad we're here.
Jessica Pernall of Sharon was also happy to be at the vigil and very happy she brought her air mattress.
Well, because the ground is hard and we want to be comfortable as much as we could.
Is everybody jealous of you?
Yeah.
Not everybody slept out under the stars here at Downsview Park in Toronto. Some people were a little more clever or innovative. These folks, for example, had a makeshift tent to stay out of the rain and the sun during the vigil. Small tents were scattered all over the area, but the Erie pilgrims were out in the elements, struggling to catch some shut-eye and enduring long waits for food.
Some of us left around 4 and I took a nap and I just woke up and it's 8:30 right now and I'm just starting to eat.
Long time.
Yeah, really long time.
But as the sun set and the candles were lit, the hardships became just a memory. The focus shifted to the stage and the Pope's message, urging the young people to celebrate their faith. It appears his message was understood.
The Pope said we're the light of the world and we're all here shining our light for everybody. And we're a beacon for everybody to prove that we're Catholics and to set an example.
The strength of their faith brought them to Toronto to experience the presence of the Pope in person, together with Catholics from the Erie Diocese and Catholics from all across the world. In Toronto, Paul Wagner, 12 News, with coverage you can count on.
Thanks, Paul, for your reports all week. The group of 500 from the Erie Diocese was one of the biggest attending World Youth Day. And Paul tells us they drew attention from Canadian media as well as other groups at the International